traditional pizza, or like are we going to like a sit down place?
All I know is you haven't named my favorite pizza place yet.
Well, because if we're
and I'm growing concerned.
I need to back up for a second, because if we're like talking like overall pizza place, like including like the sit down places, then it goes Pizzapopolis, Marco's, Donato's, Domino's, Pizza Hut.
You put Domino's in front of Pizza Hut?
All day, every day.
Really?
Yeah. I think their pan pizza is better.
And strictly on pan pizza grounds, that puts them above hot pockets. Oh my God.
Yeah, it definitely puts them above hot pockets.
Yeah, it does. Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I am almost as shocked as when you found out that I drive Toyotas now.
A little too much oil in the pan while they're baking it.
Yeah, I guess I think they have like equivalent cheeses. Like they're both really good. But I also prefer Domino's sauce. It doesn't give me quite as bad indigestion.
So now we're just rating pizza off of what our shit ends up like.
No, it's like how shitty am I gonna feel? Not like not like what's gonna come out of my butt.
Okay.
I can't do that with anything, because anything that comes out of my butt is completely unrecognizable.
Could you imagine you eat a pizza and you poop a pizza?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I've been known to have some powerful poops, but that would be just another level. So one of the cool things about my gastrointestinal tract is that I just had these giant turds. That like no joke, before I moved out of my parents' house, I would regularly plug the toilet just from pooping, because I used to eat so much. Like with no toilet paper, I would have to like poop.
Kevin, I think we finally did it. I think we are at the point we want this podcast to be at. Like we've hit the pinnacle.
Anyways, I would poop, flush and pray, and then have to like wipe. And sometimes what would happen is that I wouldn't pray enough. And I'd have to like get up off the toilet and plunge it with a dirty asshole and then wipe, because there was no saving anything that was happening. And an even funnier story is, so one time, I don't know if Brittany and I were married yet, but we had definitely were seriously together, and that wasn't changing just because of what I was about to do. And we were at some mutual friend's house with mutual friends, and I typically poop like every other day. Most people poop once a day. I'm like a every other day kind of dude. So we were at this place, and my body was like, "It's time." So I asked the guy, I'm like, "Hey, where's your bathroom at, man? I'm gonna have to let one loose." And he's like, "Oh, it's over here." He showed me the bathroom. I'm like, "All right, cool." And I was like, "Hey, does anybody else have to go? Because it's gonna be a minute." Okay, and everyone's fine with it. So I went and did my business, and what happened? Giant turd. Plug the toilet. But what makes it even worse? This guy had moved into his house a week ago and did not have a plunger. So what they did was, thankfully he had another bathroom or two in this house. And so they just took, he had caution tape. I don't know why, but they had caution tape. So they just took caution tape and put an X over the door.
How fitting.
And it stayed like that for a month, I think. But
took him a month to go buy a plunger from Dollar Tree for $1.25, by the way.
I don't know, but that's just how it was relayed to me. I don't know if that's necessarily true or if people were just building the myth. I kept a running basically ERA of toilets of places that I lived in. So the first apartment I had when I got out of the Army, that one flushed successfully roughly 85% of the time. And then I moved into the studio apartment, and that flushed successfully a staggering 92% of the time. The apartment of Brittany and I moved into together, that one was really bad. That was like a 65% flush rate.
Yikes.
Yeah. Then the house we moved into after that was I think a 73% flush rate. And we're currently living with Brittany's mother, so my mother-in-law, for reasons that doesn't really matter to this podcast episode. But this is really bad. So they had a house fire like 7 years ago now, maybe. And so when they did like the remodel, they remodeled one of the like main bathroom, and it was some plumber's brilliant idea to have a 90-degree bend directly underneath the toilet. So this one's got a really bad average. I haven't kept up with it recently, but it's like maybe 55%. But it doesn't help that I have giant turds.
I'd love to sit and discuss how you actually get the math on this, but I feel like this open is just never going to finish if I do that.
It's more like an estimated average. I don't like tally every poop. That'd be that I might have to do that though. That would be like quite the undertaking.
I say it's a noble cause.
So, yeah, I mean, you could be responsible for a new metric on toilet sales.
I could build a better toilet.
This thing's got a Lenny ERA of 0. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from across the country and around the world. This is the Life Midwest Podcast. It's Saturday, April 16th, 2022, which means I've only got 48 hours left to find a house. Or else, wait, wrong platform, I suppose. Nevertheless, welcome to the series premiere of the Watercooler Series, where friends find shelter to talk about the things agonizing their existence, since they're my friend's episode debut. But thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Kevin Palmer. That's Wes Shirley over there.
Hello.
And here to kick us off with the series and for the 18th time in a row, please welcome special guest co-host Lenny Wells.
It hasn't been 18 times in a row. Now you're just being hyperbolic. But hello, and thanks for having me again.
Definition of hyperbolic.
Make sure you don't put a K at the end of hyperbolic. You'll get something completely different.
What?
Hyperbolic.
Yes.
That's our show, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Those are the only ball licks I have in my life. The hyper ones. I don't know what the fuck that means, but it sounds good.
Really quick.
Really quick, what?
Exactly.
Oh, hyperbolic. Really quick, D's nuts.
I genuinely don't know how to get out of this.
That's what she
the definition
said?
of hyperbolic is something hyperbole. You're exaggerating. Big peens.
Okay.
Are we out of it yet?
I think we're in the thick of it now.
That's what he said.
Into the thick of it.
I was just thinking that. Into the thick of it. Now you got to do it, Lenny. Both of us did it. Now you have to do it.
No, I don't. You can't make me.
Well, folks, like I said, this is the Watercooler Series. We spent a lot of episodes where Wes would kind of give us like these life updates, and I think we had a couple mixed in there of other folks, just kind of getting up to speed with what's going on and life adventures. And Wes just seemed to have so many of them, but we never really called it a series or really knew what to what to tag it as. So I guess now we're just going to bring in other people for their follow-ups, and we all kind of share what's going on and what's again, eating at our existence, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, and talking to each other about what really grinds my gears, Lois. So, Wes, I'm going to start with you. You've had once again, as the original inspiree of this series, you've once again had some pretty substantial findings in life recently. If you want to share with the class.
Yeah, I suppose I could. Since we're here at the water cooler, just chilling. I got a few minutes. I had a sleep study, and I also went to a specialist who specializes in like maxillofacial, jaw, and sleep disorders. I guess they're all kind of related.
What do those have to do with anything with each other? I'm genuinely. If you don't know, that's fine. But like,
so my diagnosis actually kind of brings it together.
Oh, okay.
And I suspected that I would discuss my sleep issues while I was there because part of my jaw issue. For those who don't know, I have TMD, something. It used to be called TMJ, and it was like where your jaw comes out and pops out and makes noises and locks up in the morning and is painful. And it's kind of like a lifelong thing. But they have, I guess there are surgeries, but I guess they're not like the first choice. And there are therapies, but you manage it as opposed to straight curing it. And at night, people with TMJ or TMD generally grind their teeth. You know what grinds my teeth, Lois? And that's called bruxism. Basically, like for those of you unfortunate enough to have lived with someone who has bruxism and like were around them while they were sleeping, it makes like a nails on the chalkboard teeth grinding noise. And you exert a lot of pressure, like 300 pounds or something of pressure while you're sleeping. And if you grind your teeth because you have a loose jaw, or there's like nowhere comfortable for your teeth to sit, or you're having a breathing issue that requires you to like manipulate your jaw in a way to reveal more throat, your teeth grind. And so I figured there was something to do if I'm going to a jaw and teeth and like face specialist that sleep would be mentioned. But I wasn't aware he had a really advanced machine that would actually check my oxygen levels and oxygen saturation. So it's like a pulse ox machine, but it's an image of the actual pathway. And it's like radioscopic or like a MRI or a CAT scan or something that shows the flow of air going through. And then at the bottom, there's a diagram that shows what like a normal range is, or I guess a graph rather, that shows what a normal range is, a less than normal, and like a pretty severe, and then like a dangerous level. And in that, I learned that I get really poor airflow because of a number of factors involving my face and jaw. So there was a print off I was given, which I was finally able to submit to work, that shows I am receiving not a lot of oxygen at night, based on the way they were imaging me. And that led to a plethora of problems I experienced today, such as gasping in the middle of the night to actually get more air, as well as which can cause acid reflux, which I currently take medicine for, as well as high blood pressure, which I currently take medicine for. And ADHD can be caused by the lack of actual sleep one's getting. The doctor predicted I probably never get REM sleep or stage 3 sleep, and that my body's just constantly overcompensating for a lack of sleep and a lack of replenishment of hormones and things that regulate your brain chemistry. So the reason we found out that that's probably what my sleeping issue is that I just don't get enough oxygen while sleeping, and my body tries to do things to help that, meaning more sleep, or just wake up and I don't feel like I've been rested. So those issues I've been having, but we found out what the reasons were upon an inspection of my jaw, which is a bit out of place. I've had free dental care for a large portion of my adult life because I wasn't, very financially savvy or well off. I didn't come from money or anything. So I always qualified for basically government assistance up until graduating college. And throughout that time, I got, I guess, some subadequate dental work done. And my teeth don't actually have a proper place to sit in my mouth. Like my bottom jaw is mismatched from my top jaw, and my bite is um, just completely off. He says I have what is considered facial dystonia, or like some type of dystonia, a mismatch in the way that the bones are structured. And since I don't have a place for my jaw to sit, my teeth just kind of find a place. And sometimes that's back towards my throat. Sometimes they get in the way of where the tongue sits. So the tongue sits in the back of the throat. So I'm not able to really breathe while I'm sleeping because my tongue and jaw are trying to find a place to rest and not be overstressed. And I also have a deviated septum, which is a part of the nose that like separates the two breathing holes. I'm not a doctor. Breathing hole, nostrils. And I can only breathe out of one nostril at a time. And because of that, I'm not really, it's, while it's generally more efficient to breathe out of one's nose, it is more efficient for me to breathe out of my mouth because I don't get proper airflow through the nose. And having sinus issues, allergies, I generally have some mild to moderate form of sinusitis in at least one of my sinuses, which generally makes it difficult to breathe even when I'm awake, let alone when I'm asleep and have lost control of like how I'm breathing and where I'm breathing from. And so he confirmed a lot of factors that were basically just amounting up to my sleep issues. And he went through all of his charts in his office and they all matched my issue. And he's like, you know what, man, I wish I would have met you when you were 14 years old. I see in your chart at 16 years old, you started taking acid reflux medicine and blood pressure medicine and ADHD medicine. And it's also about the time that these issues arose, such as your TMJ and having a narrow upper soft palate, or like the upper arch of the teeth is too narrow. And he's like, man, you would have had a very different life, I think, if I had met you earlier. And I'm like, well, that's great to know now. Thanks. And, I'm grateful for his concern. He seemed, fairly genuine about everything and just like down to earth. And I appreciate it. But yeah, he sent me home with a sleeping monitor to confirm. And then I go back and check my results at the end of this month.
Holy shit, dude.
Wow.
That's absolutely amazing. So does this like basically like boil down to like advanced sleep apnea?
So it's not quite sleep apnea. And he confirmed, he's like, I don't want you to confuse or conflate this with sleep apnea. It's definitely a step below. You don't have the underlying causes that would make sleep apnea really an option for you. But these things mimic, some level below sleep apnea. You don't actually stop breathing at night. You just have a constant flow of lesser oxygen than a normal person would.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So what's like the management tools? Are you gonna get fitted like a mouth with like a mouth guard maybe, so that like you can like you don't have to, you're not trying to like force your teeth into like your jaw into like unnatural positions, or
Yeah, so I've always been prescribed a mouth guard since about the age of 16 because of my TMD and bruxism. And I just ate through them. I had this custom resin one made, hard as hell, but like it softens up as it's in your mouth overnight. And because I grind so hard, it would like move the grooves of where my teeth sat comfortably and then like crack in different places. And it was just really expensive to maintain because insurance didn't cover it. They didn't see it medically necessary. And I would buy the ones from Walmart, you get two for like $12 or something. And I would chew through them in a night. It was just worst thing ever. So I mentioned this to him and he's like, well, we'll get you a custom one. It's going to cost me like $2,500. And He's like, if
Ooh.
you chew through this one, I'll probably be doing reports on you. I mean, humans can't bite that hard. And it has a bottom piece to it that pulls my jaw out, which gives my mouth more room for my tongue, which it forces the airways open. And it also prevents me from grinding my teeth. So this guard will be the main preventative slash maintenance item for living with the issue I have. And then that will be a good kind of middle ground until I'm able to get my deviated septum fixed. And then also I will most likely end up in a full top set of um, braces that have basically like a key lock in the middle that expands my teeth over time.
That sounds like it will not be painful at all.
I had a friend who had the same thing done assure me that it would be.
Oh, man.
He did also suggest maybe Botox in the jaw muscles to stop them from clenching to overcompensate and to relax them. In the morning, my jaw is practically locked. If I was to eat food right after I woke up, every single bite would be painful and it would go pop, 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 pop. So I have to like massage it a little bit and just go throughout my day and then eat some food maybe an hour later. He said between the mouth guard and Botox, that will at least take care of the locking in the morning, and the mouth guard itself will eventually help with a lot more issues.
Dang, dude. That's one hell of a
Yeah.
yeah.
That is one. It really is one hell of a story. But
I'm so grateful that I went and saw him. It's not cheap, but god damn it, do I feel it's worth it. If it's going to fix all my issues, I mean, not all of them, but like all my medications I'm on, the fact that I'm late to work every day, the fact that I get dental work done on a regular basis because my teeth crack or they're getting misaligned from grinding. And, I think it'll be a good thing.
I mean, just to like know, like finally know the root cause, that has to be like such like a weight off, you know?
and I feel like it leads to so many other good things for you too, like Lenny was saying.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I did a sleep study one time, not for anything nearly as serious, but I did not like it at all. I did it while I was in the military because I had some sleeping problems, and it was the only time I've ever experienced what's it called when sleep paralysis. There we go. I had a bout of sleep paralysis that time, and then never since.
That is scary. Sleep paralysis is terrifying.
It was pretty wacky. I think I chalked it up to dreaming at the time, but then like talking about it, someone's like, "Oh yeah, it was probably sleep paralysis." I was like, "Oh okay." Wild.
It's a good thing you talk about shit that happens to you, because it's a lot like when people go to therapy and they think they had a pretty relatively normal childhood, and then they're like, actually, that one thing that happened wasn't okay, and we call that trauma. It's kind of a similar thing. Like if you didn't actually like take the initiative to talk about it or say something to somebody, like who knows how like worse that could have gotten.
Yeah, things can get pretty bad when you don't talk about it.
I feel like that's a segue.
It's not a bad. I'm not going to get too. So I've been going to therapy for like the past 2 months now, I think.
Good for you.
And I'll just say that like things in my personal life got like really heavy and really bad. So it was kind of like the final like push that I needed to get, because like I've known for a long time that I needed to go to therapy and just never have. And because I made like one, most of the time is because like I couldn't afford it. But then like when I could, or like it was covered by my insurance to a substantial degree, where I could go, I just like, oh, well, I don't have the time to go. And I did the thing that they tell you to never do, and that's wait till it gets to the breaking point. And over the course of my therapy sessions, my my doctor, who I'm still not sure about, I don't know if I like him yet, but he is like, well, I want you to read this book. It's about trauma and PTSD. And then he's like, read that and we'll get to it. And then I've yet to read it, not because I don't want to read it, but I keep forgetting. And and we're talking over just some of the daily struggles, I guess, of living? He's like, well, maybe you have ADHD. I was like, well, thank you. I put that on my intake form that I probably did. And he just like, because like when we went over the intake form, he's like, well, what's this about? And I'm like, well, this, and that. And he's like, oh, okay. Why do you think you have this? Or what do you think this is a problem? Because it is. What do you mean? Why is it a problem? So you can see why I'm not like too sure about the guy yet.
Uh-huh.
But so finally, like he's like, okay, well, let's talk about this ADHD thing. And so we did, and he finally, as of actually this past Friday, you definitely have ADHD. And I'm on day 3 of a drug, and I don't really notice it. So I don't think it's working. But in all fairness, the prescription is, he's like, all right, take one of these for 4 days. And then after that, take 2. Like, why? I'm like, why not just take 2? And he's like, it's, yeah, just to get you used to it. But I don't feel anything. So there's that. But it has caused some sleeping problems to come back. Like last night was rough. With the sleeping thing, I'm going to be bouncing all over the place. I did not take my time to organize my thoughts. I was so entrapped in Wes's story. When I did my sleep study, the doctor said I can never remember what the name of the quote unquote disorder is called. So I call it sleep time perception disorder. So like when I do sleep, I feel like when I wake up, I feel like I've been up all night and I've gotten 0 sleep. But the sleep study revealed that I have like a 99% sleep efficiency rating. So that means I'm getting very good sleep. But my brain just doesn't register it for whatever reason, which is now being exacerbated by being on a stimulant medication.
Right. Absolutely.
And but it has been. I'll tell you what. People have a lot of opinions about TikTok. But one of the things that like kind of brought that I might actually have ADHD into my mind is TikTok. And I don't want to like, I wasn't trying to go out of my way to like self-diagnose, but I did end up in like, how Kevin, I assume you use TikTok fairly regularly. Am I wrong?
No, not at all.
So how you get into those algorithm black holes?
Oh yeah.
I eventually got into the ADHD side of TikTok, and I'm watching some fairly funny skits and some informative ones, and I'm like, this feels like my everyday life. And I have some very close friends who also have ADHD, and I know their kind of struggles with it. And they've even said to me before, maybe you want to talk to a doctor about this. And I thought, oh yeah, maybe I will. And then I never did. For the same reason like I talked about. I waited up until the last minute to get therapy, which again, don't do that. If you suspect you need to go to therapy, just do it.
Healthy for most, harmful for none.
Yes, 100%. Can really help like offload like some self-toxicity. Like if you're like feeling like a certain way about whatever.
Yeah, helps you process what's going on.
Yeah. And talking to somebody impartial is probably better than someone who's just going to gas you up and be like, yeah, fuck that. Or yeah, they're totally wrong. You're 100% right. When maybe you're not 100% right. But anyways, so, but it's kind of, I don't know if vindicating is the right word, because, well, Kevin, you knew me growing up, but
I did.
I think it was, you remember Mrs. Cole?
Yeah.
I think she asked me one time, like in grade school, if I was off my medication. I was like, what medication? What are you talking about? Just completely unaware.
Huh.
And I don't think
it's a horrible thing for a teacher to say.
Well,
but
she probably, yeah, you're not wrong.
I know we've told this story before on the show, but I'm instantly thinking of when she grabbed you and you're like, you have really hairy arms.
Did we tell that on the show?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
This is way back. I think this was on your like My Friend episode.
Was it?
I think so.
Oh, I don't remember telling that story, but I also have ADHD, so. But yeah, it's been something that's been said to me multiple times, if not in such a direct way. So at least growing up, anyways.
Yeah.
So it's nice to. I don't know what the word I'm searching for is, but like I said, vindicated isn't quite the right way to describe like how it feels, but a little bit relieving. It's hard to find the right words for it because like I'm not like excited, isn't it, or hopeful, but just ready and maybe anxious to just to go forward now, knowing what I do, and to maybe that'll help me. Just knowing will help me manage it better, but I don't think it will. But who knows? We'll see what happens.
I think knowing is a piece of it. I also think that knowing the places where it might have affected you growing up and in your adolescence can help, even if it's just a matter of being able to process something and say why. That's just my thoughts. I'm not saying that's exactly how you're going to feel or what you're going to discover going through therapy or anything like that, but those have just been my findings thus far in my journey with ADHD and talking about it and discussing it with mental health professionals. So I wish that good fortune upon you as well, because it's really enlightened me. Well, I'm happy for you, and I know it sounds like you're kind of early on in the journey, but I'm extremely stoked for you. It's not always an easy one. It can be pretty bumpy, but I mean, I think it's for at the end of it's for a benefit, right? And sometimes sometimes you gotta go through it a little bit first, but I wish you the best of luck with it, man.
Yeah, like I am very early. Thank you, by the way. I am very early in my journey, and I am looking forward to see where things go. Speaking of where things are going, how are things going with looking for a house?
They're not going. They're not. We just lost a bid on a house for the, I don't know, whatever, where they asked us to be the backup, whatever. So we got silver medal. Yay, woohoo us. And I think Ash and I are at the point where it's just like, you know what? The current condition of the housing market, it's at a potential turning point with the Fed raising interest rates, and all of these real estate projects that are going to be commencing / finishing second, third quarter of the year. It could be a completely different ball game towards the end of the year, and so we're just gonna pack up and stick it out here at the shitty rent, and just recoup ourselves and get in a better position for next time, or getting in an even better position for next time, I should say.
Have you guys thought about going with like a builder?
Ashley asked that question and I didn't have an answer to it, and that was kind of the end of the conversation.
Oh.
I don't really know a whole lot about it, and I think the idea of working with a bunch of contractors potentially scares me, maybe to the point where it ignorantly scared me. It's just not something that we looked into.
I don't know personally anything about it because, well, I don't own a house, but I do know people who have done it, and not necessarily like in Washington or even the Midwest, really, but just kind of all over the country. And it seems like they're very happy with what they did. So, because typically you only deal with one contractor, and your general contractor is who's going to be like the quote unquote builder, the name on the side of the building, as it were. And then they sub out and deal with everybody else.
Oh, okay.
So you don't really have to. The trick is you do have to make sure that they're paying their people, but if you're with a large enough building firm, then you usually don't have to worry about that. Oh, I will say though, if for anybody out there listening, stay away from a building company called D.R. Horton. In my experience, at least out here in Washington, in the Pacific Northwest, Tacoma, Seattle area, they don't do very good work. In my line of work doing building restoration. There's been more than one new build house that they've put up that we've gone in 6 months later and have had to tear out drywall or flooring for. So make sure you do your research.
So they are not in your shout outs today, is what you're saying.
They are not in my shout outs today.
Okay. Who is?
Oh, are we doing that already?
Oh, look at the timestamp, my friend.
Shout outs. Shout out to my wife. I think she's probably annoyed with me right now because I'm back here doing recording, and the youngest child seems to be on a bender of anger right now. So
Tell her I said hi.
Yeah, I will.
Or not. I don't know what the appropriate phrase is there.
Yeah, whatever.
Tell her thank you.
Yeah. So shout out to her for not storming back here and yelling at me. But mega shout out to Brittany, my wife, for still wanting to be married to me, even though I'm not quite right in the head. and just going on that journey with me. And I know it's been hard on her, and it's made our relationship harder, but I wouldn't want to have anybody else with me. But to be fair, I don't think anybody else would put up with me. So, there's always
put
that.
Up with you.
Don't speak for Wes.
I just know his heart.
Just shout out to my wife. Shout out to you guys for having me on again. I think this is 3 in a row now. Free content as always, and yeah, it's been good.
Cool. I'd like to do a future episode. I don't know when, but I'd like to do a future episode where we just maybe not necessarily a water cooler episode, but maybe once you're further along the journey, just kind of being able to talk about therapy in general, and I'd love to share my experiences too. I think that could be a cool episode. So
yeah, I would not be opposed to that. Give me a little bit though. I guess I just started.
Yeah, for sure. Wes, how about you, man? You got any shopping carts to shout out this week, or garbage cans, or?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to all the victims. That being garbage cans and shopping carts. I'm just so sorry to all of you that I mean just the garbage cans that I ran into you with my car, and joking about the shopping carts is not very nice either. I'd like to give a shout out to you two. These episodes have been really fun, and I've been able to share some stuff. I've been able to kind of get an idea of what everyone's doing. I don't know, it's good stuff. Shout out to mothers, because they let their husbands record in their room. And shout out to, I don't know, whoever got a house. I mean, Jesus Christ, lucky MFers.
Right?
No, they're rolling. That's what got them that house.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, who are you shouting out today, Kevin?
I want to shout out my lovely fiance who works 2 jobs and is gone all the time, and I just really appreciate her very, very much for always being like a really big supporter of the show, no matter how big or small it is, and also like supporting me on like my own journey. Like I like listening to Lenny talk about you and the support from your wife, and I kind of think about how I'm on my own journey, and that requires a lot of support and leaning on from Ashley. And I'm just very thankful for that. So I just want to shout her out. Want to shout out you two boys this week, of course, for coming on, making another great episode. I know we're not, destroying cars like we were last week, but hey, I think it got pretty real.
And the pre-roll was pretty fun.
So on that note, if you're looking for ways to support us, we do have a PayPal that's live, paypal.me/thelifemidwest. You can reach out to us at any of our major social platforms at The Life Midwest. We also have a great website that Wes works on called thelifemidwest.com. If you're feeling spicy enough, on top of all of that, feel free to leave us a review on your favorite listening app, however you tune into us every week and every Saturday. Until then, we'll see you next Saturday, and of course every Saturday, here on the Life Midwest podcast. Take care.
Deuces.
Later.